Good morning. How are you all, children? I hope you are all safe and fine. Welcome to today's class. Today, I would like to do the poem The Shed from the book Honeycomb. It's written by Frank Flynn. What is a shed? Children, in many places you must have noticed a simple roof structures in the corner of a garden or at the end of the yard to keep animals or store machineries, equipments, or vehicles. This simple roof structure is actually known as shed. And the synonym words for this shed can be barn, hut, outhouse, cattle shed, cow shed, etc. Now let's read the poem The Shed by Frank Flynn. There's a shed at the bottom of our garden with a spider's web hanging across the door. The hinges are rusty and creak in the wind. When I'm in bed, I lie and I listen. I'll open that door one day. This dusty old window around at the side with 3 cracked panes of glass. I often think there's someone staring at me each time that I pass. I'll peep through that window one day. My brother says there's a ghost inside the shed who hides under the rotten floorboards, and if I ever dare to set foot inside, he'll jump out and chop off my head. But I will take a peek one day. I know that there isn't really a ghost. My brother tells lies to keep the shed for his den. There isn't anyone staring or making strange noises, and the spider has been gone from his web. Since I don't know when, I will go into that shed one day, soon, but not just yet. Now let's look into the word meanings. The first one is hinges. Hinges means it's the movable joint on which the doors or windows swings open or closed. You can see it is how the doors and windows are fixed. It is on this hinges that it is fixed. So you can see the picture there. So you can easily identify it. And then rusty. Rusty means corroded or covered with rust. You must have noticed if you leave a piece of iron or a nail or something for a long time in the open or in water, isn't it? When it comes in contact with moisture, it gets corroded, gets a sort of brownish color covering all around it. That is called rust. Other words are creak. Creak means it's a sound, squeaking sound. Cracked means broken. Peep, to look secretively at something for a short time. Peek is also to take a brief look. Den, a place where people secretly plan or take part in dishonest activities. Now let's look into the summary of this poem. This poem, The Shed, is a narrative poem because it describes a shed. And what is a shed? A shed is a small room away from the main house for storing things. And in this poem, the narrator is perhaps a poet himself. And he perhaps recalls the experience he had as a child. He begins the poem with a description of the shed which was located at the bottom of his garden. And this shed was completely isolated and rarely used. So it was in its worst condition possible, with all spider webs hanging across the rusty hinged door. Then the windows were all dusty with broken glass panes, the rotten floorboards. Okay, so when the poet was in his bed, in his room, He would frequently hear the creaking sound of this rusty hinged door in the wind, and this would make him very curious. Now, usually, what happens is if there is a shed like this in your yard or in your garden which is not in use, and where all the things are dumped in and stored, so parents warn you not to, they keep on telling you not to go there. So, the elders will always be very careful, they tell you not to go there. That is because uh, sometimes this becomes a hideout for some reptiles like snakes and all. Okay, and sometimes the it's things might be carelessly lying here and there scattered, and you might get injured. So they scare you by telling you that there are perhaps some ghosts or something hiding there, and that is how they try to keep you away from these places. And when that is said, children by nature are always very inquisitive, isn't it? They're very curious. Even you are very curious, isn't it? So, what happens if someone tells you not to go there? You become very curious. Why did my parents tell me so? So, you want to explore. You are very adventurous. You become very adventurous. You want to explore. You want to find out why it is said so. You find it difficult to believe what your parents tell you, isn't it? So, similarly, this young boy, so the poet as a young boy was also very curious. So, whenever he passed by this shed, he felt that somebody was staring at him and wanted to peep in through the door or the window to see what was inside. But his brother always scared him by saying that the shed was haunted by a ghost who hid himself under its rotten floorboards and was likely to jump out to chop off his head. So that had actually scared him. But actually, there was no ghost inside the shed. He understood that his brother was telling him a lie to keep the shed for his den. The poet also understood that there are no more spiders in its cobwebs, and no one is actually staring or making strange noises inside the shed. And at last, the poet overcomes his fear by saying that he will enter the shed one day. Now, let's look into the rhyme scheme of this poem. Remember, I had clearly explained how to find out the rhyme scheme of a poem in the poem The Squirrel. In the similar way, let's find out the rhyme scheme of this poem. So the first line is, there is a shed at the bottom of a garden. So what is the ending word? It is garden. Okay, so let's put A for this line. Now the second sentence, with a spider's web hanging across the door. So what is the ending word there? Door. So does door rhyme with garden? No. So what should we do? We should put B. So let's write B for the second line. Now the third line, the hinges are rusty and creak in the wind. So what is the last word here? Wind. Does the word wind rhyme with garden? No. Does it rhyme with door? No. So what should we write? We should write C for this sentence. And the fourth one, when I'm in bed, I lie and I listen. So what is the ending word of this line? It is listen. So does listen rhyme with any of the above lines? Let's see. The first one is garden, listen. Yes, it rhymes. What about the second one? Door, no. Wind, no. So what should we write here? So let us mark it as A for this sentence. Now what about the next sentence? That is, I will open that door one day. So what is the ending word there? It is day. So does day rhyme with any of the above lines? Garden, no. Door, no. Wind, no. Listen, no. Day. So what should we write? Let us write D there. So what is the rhyme scheme of this poem now? It is A, B, C, A, D. So I hope you have understood the rhyme scheme. So what are the rhyming words in this poem? The rhyming words are garden, listen, glass, pass, shed, head, then, when. You must have noticed that the poets use various techniques, styles, and poetic devices while writing a poem. So in this poem, you saw the rhyme scheme of the poem, the various rhyming words, and now let's look into the poetic devices used. The first one is alliteration. Now what is alliteration? Alliteration is a repetition of the same sounding words, the same line actually. So if you look into others examples that is given to you, the first one is, when I'm in bed, I lie and I listen. So in this line you can see lie and listen. They are the same sounding words. Listen, lie, listen. So isn't it? They are same sounding words. So such repetition of same sounding words are known as alliteration. Now the second example is, I often think there's someone staring at me. See, I often think there is someone staring, someone staring. So that is called repetition there. Someone staring. Third one, I know that there isn't really a ghost. I know that there isn't really a ghost. So that and there. So that is that, the, and that is alliteration there. The next sentence, there isn't anyone staring or making strange noises. So here it is staring and strange. So that's staring and strange. So that is alliteration. You'll also come across imagery used in this poem, because throughout the poem you will see the poet has described. Okay, so imagery, image. He has given you a description. Through words, he has beautifully given you a vivid description of the shed and other things that is described there. So such description, when it is given, image, you are able to form the image or visualize it. So that is called imagery. Now let's discuss the question and answers of this poem, The Shed. The first question given to you is, who is the speaker in the poem? So when you read the poem, you understood that it is actually a small boy there, but you're not very sure whether it is the poet himself. So we can write the answer as, the speaker in the poem is perhaps the poet himself as a small boy. Second question, is he afraid or curious or both? So what do you feel? So you saw that he was both afraid and curious, isn't it? So we can write the answer, the speaker is both curious and afraid to go inside the shed. He is curious to know what is inside the shed. At the same time, he is afraid because he has heard strange voices from there and feels that there is a possibility of a ghost hiding inside. Third question, what is he planning to do soon? So in the last line you saw, what was he planning to do? He is planning to look into the shed soon. Fourth question, but not just yet. Suggest doubts, fear, hesitation, laziness, or something else. Choose the word which seems right to you. Tell others why you chose it. So from the words that is given to you, you can choose whichever is appropriate, and you should be able to explain whether and justify it. Okay. So the phrase suggests the hesitation of the poet. So there you'll see that though he was confident, isn't it? He was hesitant to go there. So let's see. The phrase suggests the hesitation of the poet. Though he was confident that there were no ghosts inside the shed, yet he hesitated to go inside and feared exposing his brother who had made it his den. He was to keep him away from the shed. Remember, he had realized that his brother was telling a lie because he had made it his den, isn't it? Okay. So, with this, we come to the end of this poem. Hope you have understood it. Go through the poem once again. If there is any doubt, please clear it. Thank you.